everybody. This is Leslie Ann and my name is Russell Bundy, and we'd like to welcome you to the Cedar Creek Garden Railroad. This Garden Railroad is outside in our front yard. It's 10 years in the planning basically, and we've got started in it with around 1914, listen to this, 2014. It really got going on the train itself in 2016, and the first trains ran in 2018. One of the biggest questions people ask about large scale is what is a scale in G-scale or garden, and we refer to it kind of like garden because there are multiple scales. The trick is it all runs on the same track. So you can have 5 different types, 5 different scales if you will, if you want to go to scale. But in this particular railroad, we weren't interested that much in scale. We're just interested more in the garden that you'll see when it gets up there. For a comparison, here's a scale for a large scale versus an HO. The track is track powered with DC. I do have Aristocraft Revolution, which is it's kind of a DCC, but not really. It's more of an RF unit that goes straight into the locomotives themselves, versus what DCCs you think of as inside railroad. So you're in track power mostly, with a remote control that is inside the unit, each unit itself. The railroad itself is approximately 44 feet wide and 25 feet deep. It was designed to be placed in the front yard. It was interesting because we wanted to do some landscaping. It was time to do some landscaping, and we also knew we wanted to build a railroad, and so we decided that we would incorporate both of these. The theme of this railroad is not really an era or a theme. It's more of a recreation area. Where would you go to get away from the big city? There are some excellent layouts around that show you either the large scale that's just like a replica of the big engines with multiple cars and everything. There's also logging communities, lots of other things that people want to try and model. We made a decision not to model an era per se or a particular area of the country, just more to integrate the trains in the garden and give it that little extra thing. If we have to have an era for this, I would say it would be 1930s up into middle of World War II, maybe no later than 1950. Most of my rolling stock and everything is that era, but there again, I just try to get what I like to run. This layout has approximately 1,000 plants in this area. Once again, on the history of this, in 2014 we needed to do some renovations, so we got the wall put in, and when we were putting the wall in, we visualized this area right here. We did all the work on the layout ourselves except for the heavy lifting. We did not build the wall, we did not move in the rocks, and I did not put in the stream or the riverbed here. But everything else, railroad related, we did. Most of it is hand done. Here, this is the 3rd year in this, so the plants are really starting to come in and make a difference. And I think that is the main difference between a garden railroad and a scale other type of railroad, is the dynamics of the plants change the visuals of the railroad every year as they grow and change, and you add and subtract different plants. It will change the railroad. But again, this is a place that you would go to get away from your daily life. You would go up into the mountain area. You might want to do that. So we think it more of a whistle stop, a small remote place up in here. You have a bed and breakfast over here if you'd like to stay in the bed and breakfast, or you could rent a cabin. We have a few cabins for rent. There's a fishing, very good trout fishing, as the bears will show you down there. Equestrians, if you would like to ride a horse, or if you would just like to hike through here, but it's more of a getaway. That was the idea, was to get away from your normal activities during the day. We do have we don't have any industry, but we do have a small population that lives here year-round. Another question that comes up a lot with large scale versus other thing is yes, the track itself stays out year-round. The track never comes in. Now the buildings will come in to be refurbished because of just the wear and tear during the winter time and to limit exposure. But for the most part, everything you're seeing out here will stay out year-round. As we were building here, one of the challenges to build here was we expanded the layout from the original design. The original design for the interior is loosely based on a track plan called Cactus Valley. It's, you can find it in the Model Railroader magazine database. I knew when we wanted to build this, I knew I wanted an elevation change, and I knew I wanted a creek with a waterfall. Trains need to be going someplace and doing something. This helps visually make the trains disappear from your sight and come back in. I think it adds a lot to that. When I did this, I ran into, the first problem I ran into was there was a 17-inch elevation change from one side to the other side. And how to overcome that, that comes up to almost a 10% grade, which trains would not like at all. So what we ended up doing was the person that built, the landscaper that built the wall said that, well, she could put a second layer of wall in here and we could fill it in and that. And I said, well, that's not really what we wanted, because then you couldn't see the elevation changes. So then we got into the trestles, and the trestle system here was not in the original design, but it ended up coming out to be quite well, and it is the dominant feature in this railroad right now. So I'm happy with that. It's all scratch built, every bit of it. We start with timber, and we strip the timber down into it. Another reason we did not do scale, abandoned the scale idea early, was we were going something about 1/24th scale, and it became it was going to cost a lot more and do a lot more work to do that, and so I decided on a standard set for all this timber, and all this timber was just ripped at a standard width and then cross-cut to height as necessary. One of the features of this railroad that was designed in here was a pathway through the middle of the railroad. It's turned out even better than I imagined, because children especially love to come down here, and at the junction where the two tracks come together right here is just about at child height for their eyes. The children will come and they will sit in this corner and just stay for hours at a time. It's really comical to see, really pleasing to see. But that's the theme. The theme is a garden, and we exited it with trains that are running through it. The biggest challenge was the landscaping. As we got into it, the landscaping created some unique situations and challenges which required engineering and thought. We had a basic plan what we wanted to do, but as things evolved, certain ideas came out, and so I think the changes to the initial plan were very challenging in some areas.
Gardening made a big role in this layout. Basically because we wanted the railroad in here, gardening did a big thing. And I do a lot of the gardening, a lot of the weeding. I can run trains, but my main focus is to do all the planting and rearranging things and making sure everything stays alive.
If I had this to do over again, one of my engineering, over-engineering was when I put in the trestle system, I deliberately left it 5/8 of an inch lower than the entrance and the regress from it, thinking that I would be able to level the track on the top of the trestles. That turned out to be an awful lot of work with shims in different sizes. If I had to do it again, I would make the trestles as high as the entire thing so it came around, and then I would level from the bottom. What I enjoy mostly about the layout is, and one of the deciding factors of putting it where it is, it's in the front. A lot of people have theirs that are out in the backyard, and that's fine. We wanted it to be more of a community and get people. I think just when people come by and say, I didn't know that was there. They walk up and they'll spend 15, 20 minutes or some time talking to us and just meeting the neighbors. But it being in the front yard it's been very rewarding.
I have enjoyed most of it just because I can come out here and just sit down, watch trains. After a busy day, I can just come out here, sit down, watch the trains go by. Very relaxing, very rewarding, and I just absolutely love to do it.
Well, everybody, that was our tour of our layout, Cedar Creek. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being able to watch and see that. Hopefully you can really come and physically see it next year when we do our open house.
I hope you can enjoy this and come by and see us whenever you can, and thank you.